Ryan Miller's life looked almost perfect from the outside: a stable corporate job, a reliable paycheck, a modern apartment in a busy American city, and a calm, practiced smile he carried everywhere. But behind all of it lived a quiet emptiness he ignored every morning when the alarm went off, avoiding eye contact with his reflection and drowning himself in work, notifications, and responsibilities. Because from an early age he had learned that asking questions was risky, that dreams were impractical, and that the safest path was always the smartest one. Once, he had been a curious kid who loved drawing, imagining stories, and dreaming without limits, but slowly, under expectations, fear, and constant advice like, be realistic and get settled first, he buried that part of himself and locked a door inside his own mind. And for years life moved forward on autopilot. Promotions came, stability increased, yet happiness never lasted more than a few hours, until one ordinary night, without any dramatic trigger, he broke down and cried. And for the first time asked himself what his life would feel like 10 years later if nothing ever changed, a question whose answer scared him enough to finally seek help, leading him to a therapist, Dr. Emily Carter, who asked him one simple question that shook him deeply: when was the last time you felt like yourself? And in that moment Ryan realized how long he had been disconnected from who he truly was, session by session learning that the human brain isn't designed to make us fulfilled but to keep us safe. Which is why we wear emotional masks until one day we mistake them for our real face. And during a guided exercise he imagined a closed room within himself where his childhood curiosity, creativity, and silenced voice were trapped. Opening that door felt terrifying because behind it weren't just dreams but fears: fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of losing control. But he slowly understood that fear wasn't the enemy, it was proof that he was alive. And from that moment on life didn't suddenly become easier, it became more honest, because reconnecting with himself meant facing everything he had avoided for years: unfinished decisions, suppressed desires, and a quiet anger not at the world but at himself for choosing safety over truth. There were nights when the emptiness returned and his mind whispered, "See, nothing's changed," but this time he didn't run. He stayed with the feeling and learned that pain isn't a punishment but a message pointing to something unheard. He began noticing how deeply his mind feared uncertainty because losing control had always felt dangerous. Shaped by a childhood where mistakes were quickly corrected and strength meant hiding emotion, turning him into an adult who treated feelings like problems to solve instead of experiences to live through. Therapy helped him understand that familiar pain often feels safer than unknown growth, which is why every time he moved closer to what felt real his mind warned him, what if you fail? What will people think? But instead of silencing those thoughts he learned to listen without obeying them, recognizing them as old survival instincts rather than truth. Sometimes he still slipped into old patterns: overworking, exhausting himself, judging his limits. But now he paused and asked what he was really running from, and the answer was usually the same: himself and the truth that his life wasn't wrong, just incomplete. He realized society often calls it gratitude when you stay quiet inside a stable life, but staying silent while slowly breaking is a different kind of self-destruction. So he began adding small, honest moments into his days: drinking coffee without checking his phone, sitting in a park with no goal, allowing himself to rest without guilt. And in those quiet moments he started recognizing the person he had abandoned years ago. He no longer needed every answer or total control, because he accepted that not knowing is part of being human. And now when he looks in the mirror he doesn't see a perfect man but someone who feels fear, doubt, and confusion and still chooses not to run, understanding that life isn't about becoming better every single day but about becoming a little more real. Because what exhausts people the most isn't work or responsibility, it's the mask they wear every day to stay disconnected from themselves. And as that mask slowly falls away, life may not become easier, but for the first time, it truly feels like his own.